opening face-off of our game, and we have a goal against. As usual, we'll watch the whole thing, and then we'll kind of break it down after the fact. So that's the goal, and let's start it off back with the face-off. And in this case, it is a fairly complicated situation, and it really starts with their lefty, number 91. He has a fairly aggressive positioning on the edge of the circle, and he carries it in. So that alone creates some complications, as he's the lefty coming in through the right wing. So if we stuck man-to-man, it would have been Justin going over there, covering and following them all the way, but I wouldn't recommend that, and you almost as if want to treat it in the manner of number 24 is filling in for 91, so you would treat 24 as now their right defense. Number 91 has now become their right wing, and their trailing D is going to be likely going to be filling the most conservative role, which would be weak side D. In this case, the puck is on the right side, so weak side D would be the left side, and they would be somewhere in this region. And the remaining players are keeping their original positions, so this player is their center, this player would be their left wing. And so likely responsibilities will now fall on lefty, our lefty, Kevin, following number 91, center on center. Right D, Alicia, would be filling in on the far side post, and not necessarily going close, like staying on this player like glue, their left wing, but more importantly covering the opposite side post. And then any of the D that comes in, so if number 24 creeps in, then our left wing and our right wing will need to cover them accordingly. So let's kind of continue. We're continuing containment pretty good right now, covering the net front. Any passes, we're still in relatively good shape. Kevin is applying pressure on number 91. Ernest is following their center. So it's all fairly smooth, fairly okay so far. And then Alicia is following, covering far side post. So no issues right there. So she goes to the opposite side. So that's, we'll start with Alicia. That's important if this player continues to go around. And normally we don't see the defense following them behind the net if they go, and then that's kind of where we switch off. But in this case that doesn't happen, but this is all fine so far. Namely, we're covering the crease. Ernest is on Randall in the middle here, so no problems. There shouldn't be any problems. Now the tricky part was, like I said, the player that basically covered for their lefty that came in, we would almost treat them as a right defense. And now the tricky part is, because they are naturally a right wing forward, we probably want to be very mindful that they're going to be more offensively inclined usually, and so we got to watch out for them sneaking in. And in this case, you can quite clearly see she snuck in. So Dave's a little bit slow on the reaction there. And we could say perhaps Alicia's also a little bit slow on the reaction, not seeing that on the doorstep on the slot. And then there is, I see what Justin is trying to do following here, but being the weak side winger, like I said, weak side meaning Okay, let's just cut this ice in half. If the puck is on the right hand side, the weak side always going to be the opposite side of the puck, diagonally speaking. So instead of typically, they would want to follow or stick with the D that is somewhere in this region, the weak side D. And if they want to sag down lower to help cover the slot, the most important, the area of the ice, they would want to bias themselves more in this region rather than getting too far over to this side. So in this case, we could say with that positioning, we would be a little bit closer, but these are just all the compounded effects which allow for a shot in the slot, high slot right here. So yeah, number one, Dave just losing track of the player that filled. And again, this was all fairly complicated with the lefty coming to the right wing. Everyone's just switching all over the place. So, you know, it's a fairly complicated situation to begin with. So backhand shot happened to get a funky tip in off the shaft and in. So pretty funky goal. In terms of coverage, it wasn't too bad. I would say it's more of we lost a little bit of coverage in terms of losing track of the player, and then the goal itself was fairly unlucky on our part. A backhand shot we don't really expect, and it hits the shaft and goes in. So not a terrible goal to let in, but some lessons definitely can be learned from this goal. Okay, so face-off immediately after our goal against. Face-off went to Alicia. Now, quite clearly, this is where the very first clear example of the disadvantages of playing on your offside. So offside meaning Alicia is a left-handed shot on the right side of the ice, and where this becomes a disadvantage is that with you being on the weak side, your forehand basically position allows you to pass in a arc that's somewhat like so, comfortably, without moving. And in order to pass it to your defense, you need to essentially pivot your body so that you are facing this way to comfortably get a good pass on your forehand across. Whereas if you are a right-handed shot, the basically the arc of what you can comfortably pass on your forehand will look more like this. So it's a wider range. Now obviously the disadvantage is you don't have a better angle on the offensive side, being able to shoot it on net, etc., etc. It's not as nice. Those are like the obvious disadvantages, but in terms of being able to pass across the entire ice on the forehand, this is where the strong side comes quite in handy. Now we can see here Alicia is facing quite a bit of forechecking pressure immediately. Now in the past I've said if you feel like you have a lot of pressure, we want to look for immediately quick defense to defense, D to D passes. And that's gonna immediately relieve a lot of pressure for yourself. So instead of looking for the winger, if you see someone pressuring you, you send it across. And like I said in the previous review, when we do so, we want to be like the defense without the puck wants to be in a more backwards position, so that let's say there is another forechecker coming in, you can continuously zigzag backwards until you relieve pressure and you can find a lane to the forwards, rather than being, let's say, for example, Kev is not here and the defensive partner is here. In a forward position, it sets yourself up being closer to a potential forechecker, and so that would be discouraged. So zigzag pattern backwards. Now let's continue watching. See a lot of panic with pressure. Either this was a purposeful toss back, like hard to say, or we lost it with the just kind of through feeling too much pressure. In either case, this is an okay play. We get it back in the zone. Our defensive partner needs to skate towards it, but at least you're not losing the puck at the blue line where they can come in for a breakaway. So in that case, in that regards, it is a safer play than to lose it there. But otherwise, chip it up if you're really feeling panicky. But otherwise, I always try to suggest if you're feeling immediate pressure, D to D is always a safe choice. Boom, send it across, you'll leave some pressure, and then you'll need to force the forechecker to go to your D partner. So force them to skate. You're trying to play ring around the rosy, monkey in the middle, that sort of effect. Okay, so a couple things in this kind of sequence right here. Number one, so Alex is coming in and he dumps the puck. Now, there is a lot of problems with this dump, namely stationary line mates, right? And there's nothing we can do about it. The most ideal time to dump the puck is when everyone is in speed. So let's actually rewind it a little bit. So Ray has a puck and he's skating up like this, and ideally he just takes it in because there's open space. You can see, boop, open space. Why don't you just take it in? Doesn't make any sense to send a kind of a inaccurate pass, right? It wasn't able to get it cleanly, and we're all now stationary, right? So that's a problem. We're not able to enter the zone with any form of speed. Now let's say Ray doesn't want to follow it in, like he feels like there's pressure. What you would want to do now, as everyone is actually coming in with some form of momentum, is chip it. Dump it in, chip it in the corner, and because we have speed, we can get in there in a more timely manner without putting too much effort, right? We're already moving forward. Now, we don't like seeing statues up in the blue line as well, so ideally come in, tight turn, and go in with speed all together, so that you can receive pucks in stride is another ideal format, right? Stationary, receiving it stationary is not ideal. We'd rather see it like, how could we improve upon that, is rather than cruising in like this, just come down, tight turn, and now you're ready to go, receiving on the forehand. Ray's coming in, boom, forehand to forehand on the forward motion. We're ready to rock and roll, and if he decides to dump it, we're ready to go all together. Okay, so enough of that for the dump. So we get to here, he decides to dump it. We're stationary, but it's still kind of okay. Now, the next part that is questionable is pucks in the zone. Why is Ray sitting in the center ice? He should be holding the blue line, right? Good positioning would be there, marked an X, and identifying a hard rim. This is a prime opportunity to pinch. They're high in the zone. That means there's not much you need to close up on. Easy pinch because it's a hard rim. what does that also mean? Like, a rimmed puck means it's hard to settle. It would be a different mark if it was tape to tape, but it's a rimmed pass. Easy. Look at that. Easy poke check to keep it in the zone. So we've lost opportunity to keep the puck in the zone just by a poor decision to stand at the red line for no obvious reason. This one is a good example of good and bad. So what are some really good things to see is how we've Kathy's able to close up the gap in a reasonable manner. Now, one of the things that she could probably work on is, rather than having this kind of forwards momentum, which has a risk of causing a flyby, it would be to do some sort of backwards pivot. But in this sense, she does a turn closing the boards, which is really good. Like, it still kind of gets her into a backwards momentum, so she's almost doing a wave surf in a way, and this allows to put kind of pressure in the neutral zone. And we've kind of said in the past, the neutral zone is really your ultimate goal of where you're doing your defensive battling. If you can turn the puck over in the neutral zone, that is like the best thing you can do. And the ultimate like last line we want to hold is the blue line, because that's kind of where you really want to make a move. You're forcing them to make a decision. Do they dump the puck? Do they deke? If they deke, you can also force some of your teammates offside. So that's really where you want to try to really hold it. So the great thing is, boom, putting pressure, stopping them at the blue line, and just like that, they're actually, you forced an offside. Now, this is more of probably a byproduct of Kathy playing a lot of, well, mostly winger all her life, and she sees some openings, so she's gonna start to try to take it up the ice. Now, it's a little bit of a mental shift being defense, is that when you recover the puck, it almost, you want to keep possession double back. There's a forward that's close to you, a lot of pressure on your side, because they've just tried to enter the zone and you've killed it. And this is kind of where you need to take that time to reset that play, buy some time, run it D to D, and not necessarily want to force it up the ice. So you have a little bit more freedom. You want to control the pace as a defense. So that's probably one of the, I guess, quote unquote, mistakes, which causes, boom, this turnover, and now we got to dig the puck out. So something to think about. It's just a little bit of a different mindset shift, playing from winger to defense, but that's just something that comes with experience, playing it more. But otherwise, like, the most important thing was that blue line, neutral zone pressure, no easy entries, so that was really good to see. I feel like this was a wasted opportunity for Ray, and let me explain why this is a wasted opportunity. Boom, 3 on 1. So he's carrying it up, lots of room to work with. This is like a prime offensive chance. He has 4 players behind him. What does Ray do? Dishes it off before the blue line. Could definitely fuck up an offside just like that. Not only that, he misses the pass. And it's, boom, odd man rush, wasted opportunity. So gotta give Ray flack for that one. I like this clip as an example of what we want to strive for and what we kind of want to avoid. Now, in the past, I've talked about gap control and how do we translate that to something we want to work towards? And so gap control really is controlling your gap between yourself as the defender and a player with the puck, or even without the puck, to a point of 1 to 2 stick lengths, and then to the point where you're trying to close it and threaten them, you know, on that last line of defense, right? That blue line, force them. Nothing, no easy zone entries. Boom, poke check. You can easily force an offside right there like that if they had to make a decision or you were able to poke it off. Now let's rewind a little bit. What do we want to avoid is being too conservative. And now I'm not trying to pick on Alicia. It's common for a lot of new defenders, is the fear that, oh, they're gonna beat me wide. I'm not fast enough at backward skating. And that, you know, it's a legitimate concern when there's skill differences. But at the same time, you don't want to be too conservative because, yes, number one, they could beat you wide. But number two, if you give them too much space, so let's pretend Kevin is not here. Now, it doesn't matter if they can beat you wide. Like, they don't need to beat you wide because they have everywhere in the world to go. So, number one, we don't want to be too conservative. Now, if you don't feel too confident with your skating abilities, that's okay. We don't have to, like, you want to work towards being able to stop the blue line, but we don't necessarily have to at this point. Now, if you feel like 3 stick lengths is going to give you enough of a buffer for them to, you can stay between them and the net, so be it. That's what you have to do. But keep in mind that you just don't want to give them too much space. And let's just continue watching Alicia here. And she continues to skate backwards. Now, before they even pass that blue line, we're almost, like, we're probably more than halfway between to the net. So this is basically, we're boiling down, this is all that space we're giving to them for free. And we just want to close that up a bit. So just get yourself a little bit closer. So it doesn't have to be, like, if you don't feel confident you're skating, it doesn't have to be here per se. But if you just go here, for example, now you've essentially closed up a little bit more, effectively more space, right? If they need to get to around you, you have more room to work with, and they have to skate further around you, versus if you're down here, less space that you can operate with. Okay, so that is an example, and how we can achieve that ultimately is you forward skate, build yourself a decent gap. Now this looks like 2 to 3 stick lengths, and then you can start your retreat with your backward skating. Now if you feel like your skating skills are a little bit worse, you can start with 4 to 5 stick lengths, and then you're working in a backwards pace. For example, let's call this a unit of 1, and if they're going at a unit of 1.5, essentially that is going to be closing the gap slowly and slowly, and so eventually it gets to the point where, boom, you're right in front of their faces and you're able to effectively poke check. So that is how we translate gap control, and I guess the best example of what gap control essentially is. And then what we want to avoid being too far. That's just too large of a gap control. Like there's effectively no control there. And so that's how we want to work towards. And just for fun, we're going to include this clip because we just have to show pizza deliveries. But on a serious note, let's rewind this back a little bit. Rewind. Boom. Get in the corner. What are some huge problems? Way too high up. Like, we're allowing their D to be in front of a forward. That's a problem. We need to be down here. We could argue weak side forward winger can be there. That's not too big of a deal. But Alex is way too high up. And the other thing is, I think as a center, and this is still kind of a working theory, is get even closer. We're like almost standing, like cruise down to that goal line. So it's like a little baby pass, and then you can go up. Yes, so I think that would improve the breakouts a little bit more, and for Alicia, get behind the net. So we're just across, so we can just do a straight pass across behind the net, and that'd be fairly simple. Which you do, like we can see Alicia's cruising back down there, so that's a good sign. Ernest has cruised up too early, and then yeah, Alex, I don't know. We want to find open lanes where it seems like we're skiing into closed lanes, so perhaps a bit of a mystery. And then the most unfortunate part is we've delivered a nice beautiful pizza. And for a reminder, what is a pizza? If you just draw a little cone from the net, we try to avoid doing long diagonal passes up the middle like this, unless there's a clear lane, and so that is what a pizza is called. Yeah. So this is our second goal against. Honestly, I didn't even realize this happened in the game, but we'll break it down to see what happened. Okay, so what happened? We'll break down the goal itself first. So they shoot it from the point, and very unfortunately, we have a tip by our own player that from what I can tell from video, is here's the path, boom, shot. So it goes like this, and then it actually tips up slightly, and I think that's kind of what catches our goalie off guard, and then it sneaks in super slowly behind him. Unfortunate. So I'd say like now we're at 2 goals that are kind of unfortunate. What can we do to prevent it? I don't think any big mistakes. Perhaps on our center, a little conservative, but it's not a big deal. Like we've said, we want to, if we're caught in a little bit of a bad position, we kind of want to prevent them from coming in the middle. Now, some improvements is obviously this is not the best gap control. We're trying to hold that blue line, but essentially the next best thing you can do is prevent them from cutting to the middle. Like, so we're essentially, this is like after they've passed our last line, this is where we've kind of switched to actual defense in our defensive zone, and we're just preventing them from coming into this zone. So poke check. Now this is all, I think this was a relatively safe play, shot from the point, should be a pretty straightforward, and it's just unfortunate that it's tipped into the net. I'm sure that was totally unintentional, but it just happens in that manner, and it trickles in. So very unfortunate. I would call it an unlucky goal. I don't think there was any defensive coverage mistakes, so not too much to be learned on this goal. Now this is our penalty against, and almost scored in our own net. What is the penalty? So we can see here Mike bats the puck out of the air way up high. Let's even try to get a freeze frame of how high. Right there. So in ASHL, it is also, well, in the rules, anytime we have the stick above the crossbar and touches anything, whether it be a puck or anything, it's a high stick, it's a penalty. Now this is also to the discretion of the refs, so sometimes they let it go and give you a warning. In this case, they are not giving you a warning, so it is a penalty. It's in ASHL. It's just, as I understand, they're discouraging people from recklessly swinging their sticks in, at the height of people's heads. So just something to be mindful of in the future. So let's watch penalty kill in action. Is there anything we can glean from it? What can we improve upon? Now essentially, remember that because we're down 1, we are essentially wanting to enact more of a zonal coverage rather than man-on-man. And the easiest way is, the first thing is just think about, we want to protect roughly this area of the ice. That means no passes, no pucks easily going to people into the zone, push people around, like push people out, box them out. Like, you don't need to literally shove them, but we're just boxing them out, tying up sticks and stuff like that, and not allowing them to skate in with immunity, right? And some of the easiest ways to do that, or common positionings, are you just form a box in some sort of manner like that. You could form a little diamond in a formation, something like that. These are some easy ways. Don't need to get too complicated. The most important thing is preventing them from coming into this area. And then if you have the space and time, you can put a little bit of pressure, but you don't want to chase them all over the ice. Okay, so let's continue breaking it down. Now, if you get the puck and you're feeling pressure, you're trying to just clear it out of like the zone and get it as deep as you can and go for the change right away. So whether your shift is maybe 15 seconds, 30 seconds, you clear it, maybe go for the change. If you're feeling that you're not really that tired, okay, maybe you can stay on a little bit longer, but the penalty kill tends to be more tiresome just because it is down 1 player. So let's continue watching. About 20 seconds, 25 seconds have passed so far. Good stop. Yeah, good dump right there. Now on the PK, after a dump, we just want to be conservative. We don't want to go crazy and forecheck. Be conservative, come back. Remember, if we can just boil it down to the battle zone, which is the neutral zone. If you can kill the play in here, that's perfect. And then work your way, the last line of defense on that blue line is the best way we can think about it. And so PK, we just dial it back, put that to like your top of your mind. And then forechecking is, don't go too crazy on it. So let's see what we can see from the remainder of this PK. Let's continue watching. So they're not putting any forechecking pressure, which is in our benefit. If they're not going to do it, we can wait until they come to us and then you clear it. So smart play there. And so one of the things we can just dial back there, if we go a little too crazy on the forecheck, right, that kind of allows for a simple pass. We're down a person, and so it kind of creates some odd man rushes. So now in this case, it'll be a 4-on-3, and so yeah, just kind of be careful with that. Is one of the things we can learn from there. And then are we able to kind of, yeah, boom, perfect example. You force them to make a move on the blue line, right? They had to do an extra deke, offside right there. Boom, easy as pie, right? So a brilliant example of no easy zone entries. Force them offside, make them make a move on the blue line. And we should be nearing the end of the PK soon. Unfortunate. Good save. Oh, goal against. Okay. What can we learn from that? So puck here, and one of the things is we could say get it in the corner. Awkward, but it kind of kills the play right there. And we've kind of said we avoid having pucks in here. So if get in the corner, get in the boards, that kind of serves that purpose in the immediate moment of time. Now, unfortunately, with a backhand clear, in a way, you're creating a bit of a pizza, right? Now, it's not a horrendous one, but it's kind of something that we want to avoid. And I wouldn't say it's like necessarily a bad mistake. It was kind of a lot of pressure, but this kind of allows for that to happen. And yes, so what happens here? Shot, wasn't able to get it cleanly, and then a backhand shot on that. I wouldn't say any huge mistakes there. Some loose pucks that just wasn't able to be covered. Positionally, not a big problem. It's a PK. It's a PK, so we have some leeway here. But that is our third goal against. I would say to this point, 2 unlucky goals and 1 on the power play. It's not too bad. Okay, good example. A lot of blue line examples today, and it doesn't work, and we'll kind of break down why. So the players, 91, their star players coming down with speed, and let's take a focus on Ray. He starts the retreat, but then he stops and lunges forward and the sweep across, right? So that's the main problem. The idea is there. We've kind of hammered down that this blue line is that last line of defense. Now, what is the problem, or what does he do that is a problem? And it's essentially that stop and the lunge forward. And if it doesn't work, why is that a problem? Okay, so because he lunges forward, he now has to pivot and then continue skating, whereas that player already has that forward momentum. And so Ray's a fast skater, but you can see he's beat at this point. And it all starts from that. And how do we improve, or what can we do to prevent that? So a couple clips ago, we saw Kevin with his gap control and example. And what you do is you actually close up that gap until you're almost reaching 4 to 5 stick lengths, maybe even 3, depending on how comfortable or how confident you are with gauging the speed differential. And once you get that gap, is you pivot and you start skating backwards. So what Ray could have done this time is, boom, you start to skate forward a little bit, close up that gap, and then pivot backwards. And now you have some room to work with, right? You got this room in the neutral zone to kind of put that pressure on. And also you will have that time to build up that backwards momentum, your backwards skating, that speed that you need to maintain a constant gap. And as you get better at it, you'll be able to control the gap to the point where then you can apply poke checks while still skating backwards at the blue line, and that's really what you're going to want to achieve at like the pinnacle of basic defense on the blue line. So that is an example there, and then what kind of went wrong and how he got beat even though he did challenge at the blue line. Example of some D to D passing, kind of setting up the partner for failure, and also not going in a backward zigzag pattern. So boom, Ray has the puck, no pressure, right? No pressure, zero reason to do D to D passing right now, right? Looking for options. Let's wait for those options to open up. Boom, he decides D to D pass where there is pressure. Suspicious. So not a great decision to do that right now. Now, number two, we can clearly notice Kathy is forward of Ray, so we're not doing a the D to D passing is to relieve, number one, relieve pressure, number two, find lanes, right? And okay, for example, if a lane to Dave is not open, Ernest looks like he's going off to Narnia, maybe for a line change. So this, we could have waited for this lane to open up. That's kind of the first purpose. Now, if you're feeling pressure, let's say immediate forechecking pressure, you want to relieve it. You do a D to D pass. Or everything is covered, like let's say everything is absolutely covered and closed up, ironclad. Then you want to move it across so we can find new lanes. But this really only is available if we're going in a backwards fashion to relieve pressure. You know, you're buying time for each other, not feeding them into like the trap. So this automatically, wow, that's a lot of pressure. It doesn't really look very juicy anymore. 3 players, kind of suspicious. And then we make it even worse by just throwing it up into an armada of opponents, rather than what's the better decision? D to D pass back, relieve that pressure, rather than throwing it up. So luckily we get the puck back, but you know, that kind of decision making process there, a little flawed. And perhaps we just gotta kind of boil it down to, why are we even doing this to begin with? And it's really relieving pressure, and we're finding open passing lanes. And we're not just throwing it to your D partner just because we want to throw it to your D partner, right? So we gotta do it with purpose. So I think this is a good example of what happens when we stay a little too high as forwards. So let's first highlight our D is with the puck, and boom, sending it D to D in a backwards zigzag pattern. Excellent. We got pressure, and now you're relieving that pressure. And we're going backwards, so we're just buying time and space. Now part 2 to that equation is we want to stay wide and go back, so that if we need to send it back to you, it's possible, because if they have another forechecker, we can relieve that pressure. Now, our forwards are very, very high up the ice, and you can see they have some level of forechecking pressure. The easiest way to relieve that pressure is to come down close. So come in and fill those gaps and so forth. Now, if everyone, like their whole team, comes down aggressively, then it's really easy to leak the zone and get behind them. But if they're high up right here, there's not really any reason to stay so far up. You want to kind of buy that space for yourself. So I like that. Number one, in my personal opinion, I think Alicia coming down low, excellent to see. One of the things I would say for her as an alternative is stay closer to the boards, and really that's just going to allow more options. So like a puck that comes up the boards, you're going to be in better position to get it. If you get a puck here, you have kind of room to work with, some more space. It's less of an awkward place to be, right? So let's freeze frame right here. We have forechecking pressure on our D-man. Our center is at the red line. Our winger is at the blue line. There are more opponents in our zone than we have our own players. That's a little suspicious, right? And even with them putting pressure there, nobody moves a muscle. Alex hasn't moved a muscle. Our center is not even on the camera screen, and they have 4 forecheckers. I think a little bit of help would be desirable. Now, with Alicia being there, boom, easy passing lane. Now, ideally, I think a center would have been better there, and then having a winger here would be better, so that we have a coordinated attack together. And I would say what is more ideal is Alex. So it's almost leapfrog. Let's say this position, we would have our right D would probably be better there, and our right winger would have been better here. So you have more close support, and you have a coordinated attack rather than relying on big stretch passes. And that's kind of my opinion, to have a more clean breakout and a more coordinated attack. Boom, just like that. Now imagine we had a winger, and this was a center, or let's say the center was here, then it's a pretty easy pass and we can get in the zone pretty easily. Instead, because there's nobody there, we gotta turn back around and reset. And still, Alex doesn't really move the muscle. Our center is like at the blue line. Our D, like our right D, is a little high as of playing. Like, this is where our winger should have been. Our defense should have been back here, kind of parallel with the other defense. These guys are way too high. So, kind of an example of how come this breakout wasn't so clean? Why do we have to put so much work to get in the zone? Same thing again, we do a reset. Now, ideally, we want to have a winger, right? Clean passes. We want to have some clean passing options. Again, our center is still at the center line, not facing the puck. But not only that, let's say they are facing the puck. Yikes. It looks like they're just going to be mugged for their lunch money in the center of the ice. It doesn't look so, it doesn't look so friendly. This is a little high. Like, I think if you're down here, you get some room to work with, some more time to work with. So it's just like combined factors that make things difficult. And in the end, I suspect Kevin is just going to carry it all the way, because that's just kind of how this play looks like it's going to be shaping up to be. Yeah. And I'm not sure if there's a goal here. No. But let's kind of like rewind. There is a stretch pass attempt, but right? You can see one stick, 2 sticks, 3 sticks we got to go through. It doesn't get through the 3rd stick. Now let's say that puck does get to there. like I said before, looks like this Mike's gonna get mugged for his, his life savings. It's just not a friendly environment to be in, all the way up there, surrounded by a bunch of opposing players. Rather, if we were just kind of a little bit closer together, we have some more room to work with. So, okay, so on this rush, one of the things I've said in the past is the first player that doesn't have the puck wants to drive that net and kind of create chaos. And what happens when you do that is usually you'll draw 1-2 defenders towards you, and you're trying to create some chaos in front of the net. And the second player without the puck tries to stay high somewhere, essentially high. What does that mean? Well, let's just draw a line like this. We want to be kind of in this area so that a pass could be like sent backwards and they can skate into it for a shot. Generally speaking, alternatively, they can continue cruising down and going into the corner. Just kind of read how that play. Just go for the open space. Now, I want to focus on Alex here. So he drives a net, but that doesn't. Your job doesn't stop when you get to the crease, and you don't want to be on the opposite side of the ice. So we've said let's cut that ice in half. If the puck is on the left side, try to get on the left side. So where it becomes quite juicy is rather than being on the back door, right, this pass is not so easy. Versus what you do now is you could go across behind the net and just kind of get in a support role, and we can just cycle the puck around. Or what really can create chaos is you cut in front of the goalie so that now you are on the side of the puck, and so you are on a position to deflect the puck, tip the puck, if there's a rebound, jam the puck, versus on the opposite side where you have to rely on a backdoor pass. In this event, you have a lot of options. Now, let's say you stand here. Let's draw Alex with his stick. If you get a pass like this, this also allows for a wraparound play, right? You could turn around and jam it 5-hole. You can go across the ice and go shoot it far side. So there's more options that really open up for you the moment you just flip to the strong side of the ice. You're still in front of the net, but you get more options. It's likely to get the puck to you in an easier fashion. You are going to be in a more prime position to have more offensive chances, whether that's banging rebounds, going for deflections, going for wrap chances, getting passes, right? So those are some adjustments I would say I would suggest for Alex. And so, like you can see right here, he's easily getting boxed out by this player. He's not, like, even if a shot goes through, it's going to be a tough life for him, versus if he just gets here, a little bit easier to get that puck. Unfortunately, it doesn't get to the net, but we have a backhand shot chance there. So some slight adjustments, I think, would be to the benefit of Alex. So the interesting thing is, Mike is an absolute menace when it comes to carrying the puck up the ice. Chance there, and then from here gets a little dipsy doodle, gets a backhand roof as a goal. So we gotta give him a little, that's why I gotta give him a hard time in the pass when he's just standing at the red line waiting for a pass, when he can just skate down and then skate it up himself. This is prime example number 1. So here is a totally planned and strategic face-off loss so that Kevin can go and strip the puck off the D and go on a breakaway and score. And now the game is 3-2. Here's another example of how we're not supporting each other and we're really doing ourselves no favors on how to relieve pressure. So we get the puck. There's some obvious, there's going to be an obvious forechecker coming towards Ray there, and he's not really doing anything to help himself to open up lanes. So one of the things he can opt to do is start skating backwards and then start also widening out the ice for himself. So one of the things is boom, skate backwards, skate in a manner like this, where this whole time he's a lefty. He's going to be forehand, 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 and all this time he can opt to pass like this. Eventually, when he gets wide, he can also turn and boom, D to D pass. Now, his D partner is not doing any favors. She is, again, this is probably more of a winger mindset here, staying forward of the puck rather than staying wide and behind to relieve that pressure. So you can already see how if a pass comes like this, not looking so good. Now, as a centerman, they can fulfill what the other D is not doing by going down low or even just looping behind the D and coming back up, and that is definitely an option we can opt to do. But you can see there, just floating backwards slowly. Oh, I finally got some pressure. Let's pass it to our D. Right? Problems, 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 problems. And immediately, what is that? There's 2 forecheckers. What's that? Our only passing option has also 2 defenders on them. Yeah, not so pretty. And this is really just self-inflicted harm. And it all starts with positioning, right? Backwards zigzag pattern. We gotta put that down. Taking space, right? Opening up the ice. Like we're a little, right? It's compressed, so open it up. Like find some space for yourself, and things will become easier. So I think we almost got another penalty here, just like that. You can see, boom, shot, and it hits Kathy's stick that's way up in the sky. Now I think they gave you leeway because that puck was basically about to smack you in the face, and I think it's a natural reaction to protect your face with your hands, so I think they gave you a pass. The ref could clearly see that path of the puck rather than earlier Mike knocked it down purposefully, so I think that's why we were able to get away with this one. We're about to witness our star penalty drawer. He's mastered the craft. He drew the penalty perfectly. For I don't know what they call the cross check. Okay, so power play. Let's kind of watch it in its entirety. Essentially, the goal is get possession, work around the outside, and you're just trying to find quality chances as best you can. Make use of the numbers disadvantage that the other team has. So good pass, just hits the goalie in the head. Let's continue, skip ahead. So minute 10 has passed now. Nice. Ooh. That's pretty greasy. That's pretty greasy. And yeah, Mike and Dave were working hard in the corners to dig that puck out, so props to them. Okay, so I particularly like this team as the perfect example of how close support really helps out in the grand scheme of things. So this team is a fairly high forechecking team. One's pressuring, and you can see there's two forwards ready quite deep, and their defense is poised and ready to pinch down on the blue line. Now, the first item is how I keep kind of reiterating how our wingers are just too high, right? Here's that red line at the top of the circle, the ringette line, and especially for a heavy forechecking team, it will become more beneficial the closer we come to each other. And why is that? So the first reason is, let's say as a winger we're down here. This forces the defense, they need to make a decision. Do I want to pinch up to them all the way down there? And it's a lot of ice to cover, right? And if they make a mistake, they have to have a lot of ground to cover to make up for that decision that they make, right? Whereas if we're just standing next to them, we're making their jobs easy. They're going to stand on the blue line anyways, so they don't need to move. And if they see a pass coming, it's just 1-2 steps and they can just strip the puck off of you, right? Now, part two to that equation is when we're nice and close, you can essentially create mini triangles with each other. And unless they have 3 players all lumped up into an area, you're usually going to be able to find some lanes of passing to each other in a short distance. And that's going to be able to get the puck around these forecheckers. And if they were to commit everyone onto one side, then we create open ice on the opposite side of the ice. And we can see here there's 2 forecheckers on this side and one starting to gravitate more to this way. So that allows for a D2D pass, right, from our left to right side, and that's going to create some lanes and open up some ice. And for Ray, he has 2 decisions. Ideally, he can go up this way or this way, right? So let's continue. Boom, he's done he spun away, and now there's clearly a concentration of forecheckers, and that's kind of a really good thing in our sense. We got 3 forecheckers, they're all lumped up. Now we're opening up the ice. They can go this way. Ideally, we can also go up to the winger if they're down low enough. And they've closed off the middle, so to the center, probably not the best and optimal route. And same thing we can say with Justin, just come down a little bit closer, but as him being the weak side forward, right, the opposite side of where the puck is, there's a little bit of leeway. But with that said, once that puck gravitates to the strong side, then their leeway goes away, and they might have to come back down low. And we can see how that unfolds as we continue. Boom, so D to D, and immediately, boom, forechecking pressure coming this way. And if they're quick enough, maybe we can get it up to the winger, but it's to the center, probably a bit tough. So in this scenario, sometimes what works quite well, and if you're feeling a lot of pressure closing down on you, is you actually reverse it back, D to D once again. So it's going to be playing monkey in the middle. This guy is going to go back and forth, and you're going to tire them out. And then that in itself might open up the ice enough for you to break it out. So that's something that we can consider. We would ideally want to see Ray be ready for a pass immediately right back and not having to chase after it if you were to reverse it. Let's see, out in the middle, so perhaps like the better choice was to be up to Justin, as there's not really any pressure there, right, versus the 3 forwards in the middle. And kind of like I said, we're a bit high. Like Justin's better than what Alicia was. He's at that kind of like that minimum. Lower probably would be a little bit better. And the reason is, you can see that D-man, he doesn't have to skate very far. And even if a puck does get to Justin, he doesn't need to skate very far to apply pressure, versus if you're down here, he's got a little bit more ground to make. And you're just like, the goal is you're trying to make that defenseman that's going to be covering you make that hard decision. Do I commit to that pinch? And if I'm going to commit to that pinch, what if I get caught? Do I have enough to get back the other way, right? Make them make the hard decisions, and that starts with coming down lower. So that means more skating and more energy, and that, you know, you just need to skate more. So that didn't quite work out. Let's see. Yeah, maybe a reversal. Ray should definitely be getting open for his D partner, but in this case, Kathy throws it up high, but we're able to clear it. That's fine. But some kind of takeaway points there. We can always kind of so number one is the wingers getting down low, getting close together, forming those little triangles with each other, especially more important for a heavy forechecking team. And then think about doing a D to D and then a D to D back to your partner. And yeah, when you do your first D to D pass, your job's not over. Don't skate away. Stay open. Really important to do that. So support your partner. And yeah, I think that's the main takeaways here. So final sequence of the game here. Alex is absolutely dummies James there. Gets it in the corner, puts a little bit of pressure, bounces off Dave's skate. Dave absolutely buries it. 5-hole Dave strikes again. Actually, let me confirm. Oh, actually, it was not 5-hole. So maybe James is 5-hole, but goalie was over here on the left-hand side, and his pads, and the net, the puck goes in this way. So just on the outside of his leg, onto the short side post. Bam. 25.9 seconds left. The game is now 4-3. Beautiful. Alright, so last 25 seconds of the game. A little dangerous chance there. Big save by Cliff, but let us discuss a couple things here. Face-off win. Now, ideally, what we want to see is we're going out and trying to push them towards the boards. You know, that battle line is at that blue line. Make it life difficult, but we can see there's a slight pick going on there. Maybe Kathy could get there faster, but that's okay. Now, at this point, they're past, so we're trying to contain. And that's not bad, that's not bad. Now, we have a lot of personnel in front of the net. And one of the most important things we're forgetting to do, right, is we're just so focused on the guy with the puck, but there's 2 players in front of the crease. Nobody has decided to tie up their sticks, right? We're all focused on blocking that puck. Whereas if a puck comes along, it doesn't matter if the puck slides across if you stick lift them, right? You time that stick lift, what is that puck going to do? It's just going to wee across the crease and out the other side. Whereas boom, boom, they're jamming away, and then they finally get a whistle, right? So yeah, don't get too focused on the guy with the puck. Make sure, like, if you're covering a player, watch that stick lift. Once that puck starts coming, boom, stick lift. Let's continue. I think there's about 15 seconds more. Here it is. So he's coming in. Stop him at the blue line. Boom. Done. Game over. So that's perfect. Done by Ray. No easy zone entries, right? They're coming in, very obvious. Force them towards the boards. Bam. So that's game over. Pretty good game. Big comeback for a 3-win.